Out west, Central American migrants in Tijuana are growing desperate tonight as living conditions worsen for them. Some are even packing up their belongings and heading home. Our border reporter Oscar Margain has an update.
In today's border brief, the migrant caravan. 6,062 is the approximate number of migrants currently camping out just south of the U.S.-Mexico border in Tijuana, with a few hundred more expected to arrive this week. That's counting caravans 1, 2, and 3, with other migrants dispersed throughout Mexico that have fallen behind. According to officials, more than 1,900 members of the caravans have been deported from Mexico voluntarily since October 19th. 98 were forcibly deported after Sunday's clash with federal agents in Tijuana. That's your border brief. I'm Oscar Margain reporting.
This is what it looks like inside the Benito Juarez Sports Complex. We've been in here for about an hour. It rained earlier and it is going to rain again. You can see the muddy conditions on the ground. The tents go for as far as you can see. I want to show you what the migrants are using to go to the restroom. These are the porta-johns that they have set up, but you can see just to get to them, there is a large puddle of water. There are also showers available for the migrants, and people have been showering here, also flooded. Now, I've talked to several people asking them if this is all worth it, if bringing their children to this area is worth it. They tell me these conditions are much better than what they have at home. There are tents everywhere. This is out in the open, and they are hoping that second shelter with a roof will open soon.
Necesitamos carpa, necesitamos, ¿verdad?, colchones, cobijas, porque se los mojó todo, ¿me entiende? Bueno, mire, a nosotros se los mojó todo. Se los mojó la ropita a los niños, se los mojó todos, los colchones, las cobijas, todos se los ha mojado.
Days after trying to rush the U.S.-Mexico border, some Central American caravan migrants have chosen to return to their countries, while others are choosing to stay in Mexico to find work.
Bueno, ahorita voy a una entrevista con migración ya para solicitar el permiso de estar aquí y luego pues para tener un empleo. Porque ya un empleo ya me lo dieron, pero necesito estar con mis documentos en regla para poder trabajar y andar libre aquí en la ciudad.
President Donald Trump said over the weekend that the migrants would have to wait in Mexico until their individual asylum claims were resolved in the United States. That would be a significant shift in asylum policy that could keep Central Americans in Mexico for more than a year.
Este momento de incremento de solicitudes de asilo se debe principalmente a que la gente se ha dado cuenta de la dificultad de este viaje y además se ha dado cuenta también de la posibilidad que está ofreciendo México. México ha abierto su puerta, México está ofreciendo asilo, México está también ofreciendo trabajo.
The migrants have traveled through Mexico in large caravans. There are more than 7,000 at the U.S. border in Tijuana and the city of Mexicali, with more than 800 others still moving toward the border.
A former Border Patrol agent's nacho response to the warranted tear gas attacks, it's pure genius. Cillian Zeal for the Conservative Tribune reports that the outrage of the day involving the migrant caravan is the fact that the government used deterrent gas after a group of about 500 to 600 individuals from the migrant caravan tried to storm the U.S. border. As the Daily Caller noted, it was actually pepper-based gas, something that the Obama administration deployed in a similar incident back in 2013. Of course, nobody really talks about that in the media these days. Now, the former Border Patrol official was asked whether or not he thought that the use of the gas was warranted. His response, priceless. Listen to this.
There was a small hole they were able to puncture through the border wall, and they hurled all sorts of rocks, etc., at the Border Patrol agents, and then they fired the tear gas. Is that warranted?
Absolutely, and to clarify, the type of deterrent being used is OC pepper spray. It's literally water, pepper, with a small amount of alcohol for evaporation purposes. It's natural. You could actually put it on your nachos and eat it. So it's a good way of deterring people without long-term harm.
Long-term harm, he was going to say there. But you could actually put it on your nachos and eat it. I mean, who doesn't like nachos, right? Well, he also noted that while the caravan itself was well organized and supported from outside sources, it also has a core of violence. This is necessarily true. You don't rush the border to illegally enter a country through force if you aren't willing to resort to violence. This clearly is not about seeking asylum, since border rushes generally don't help asylum claims, particularly if you bring children near a violent act that's bound to end badly. But of course, that's not what gets reported. Comment below, and we'll see you at the next report. For the Next News Network, I'm Gary Franchi.
A Senate committee has delayed a vote on Ronald Vitello, the nominee to be ICE's next director. In a hearing Wednesday, the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee announced it was tabling the vote in response to serious issues raised by ICE unions. According to a letter from those unions the Washington Post obtained, those concerns include a protest against ICE in Portland, Oregon, where union leaders allege Vitello, the acting director of ICE, failed to effectively protect ICE agents. They also criticized tweets Vitello allegedly sent in the past, including one comparing then-presidential candidate Donald Trump to Dennis the Menace. Vitello has previously served as Deputy Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection and as Chief of the Border Patrol.
You know, things that we worry about are infectious diarrheas, anything that can be passed on through not being able to wash your hands.
Dr. Julie Sierra is an internal medicine physician with UC San Diego Health. She's also treating Central American migrants in Tijuana's shelters, where as many as 6,000 people are living side by side in tents and under blankets, surrounded by trash and soiled clothing. They share a handful of toilets and have little access to showers.
Mostly what we see there is upper respiratory infections, gastroenterology problems like diarrhea, constipation, upset stomachs. We were seeing a lot of rashes. These people have been traveling together and staying in close quarters, so there's a lot of viral illnesses being passed around. I saw mostly women and children. Actually, most of the women I saw were pregnant, 6 to 8 months pregnant. They've been traveling in that state, and they're very fatigued and very traumatized, quite frankly, by the journey and having to flee their homeland.
Dr. Sierra volunteers as part of a network of doctors organized by San Diego Border Dreamers. It's a group of DACA recipients and immigrant rights advocates. She says they're also working closely with a large group of Mexican physicians.
In Tijuana, there's an amazing group of doctors there in Mexico who are gathering together and coordinating care for these refugees at all of the places that they're staying.
She says they're stocked with donated medications and supplies.
We have medicine for colds, coughs, we have Tylenol, ibuprofen. We even have antibiotics for people that need antibiotics. They have actually a really well-stocked pharmacy at one of the shelters, so if somebody needs something that we don't have, we can easily get it from a pharmacy.
She says one of the next steps is vaccinations.
We did see a young man with the mumps, and then I know at one of the shelters they saw someone with chicken pox. It's hard to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't, so that's another thing that we're working on, is making sure that we find out who's up to date on their vaccinations, and if they're not, we can try and get everybody vaccinated.
Dr. Sierra says she also treats migrants in a shelter at an undisclosed location on the San Diego side of the border. She says 70 to 100 migrants are being brought to the shelter every day. These are people who have been granted temporary asylum while awaiting their court hearing. And she says they typically stay at the large communal sleeping facility for 1 to 2 nights.
They get food, clothing, a place to sleep. They get help with transportation, finding the address of where they're going, getting bus tickets, anything that they need.
She says she's inspired to help the migrants because of her previous experience in volunteering in poor countries with the Peace Corps. She feels it's her duty. She's urging other medical professionals to do the same.
We definitely need more help, especially physicians, nurses, medical students, residents, anybody who speaks Spanish. We definitely need more help on both sides of the border.
Dr. Sierra plans to return to the Tijuana migrant shelters on Saturday. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
This weekend, a new president takes power in Mexico, and his views on immigration are very different than his predecessors.
10 News reporter Jeff Lasky reveals why there may be hope that solutions between our two countries can be found.
I'm at USD, where experts on U.S.-Mexico relations from both sides of the border are gathering, talking about solutions to the border crisis.
So much of what happens in Mexico doesn't stay in Mexico.
David Shirk follows border issues closely for his job as a political science professor at the University of San Diego. He suggests San Diegans learn a little bit about Mexico's new president, Andres Manuel López Obrador.
He won a massive victory in the July 2018 elections.
López Obrador will be Mexico's first leader from the left in decades. Former U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, Tony Wayne, says he has a very different approach to immigration than his predecessors and to President Trump.
He's traditionally been a strong supporter of the rights of migrants and respecting their human rights and caring for them.
As a career diplomat who worked for presidents of both parties, Wayne knows how difficult it is for the new administration to enter office during a crisis and how difficult the problem will be to solve.
They're going to have to try and pick it up as quickly as they can. Nobody wants a repeat of the kind of incident that you had a few days ago at the border.
But both experts say López Obrador and President Trump have already started building a bond, built in part on similar personalities, despite different politics.
I think there's a good opportunity now to reach an agreement. I think the new government of Mexico does not want a large outstanding problem with the United States.
As much bluster as we hear from the Trump administration, there's actually quite a bit of cooperation going on with Mexico.
At USD, Jeff Lasky.